In this video, we're going to go over how to install the jail system into your game. So the first thing we want to do is run the installer script. So double click on the installer, Control A, Control C to copy. And then we want to paste it down here in the command bar. And that will install the system into your game. And now we can remove this installer script. So we have a lot of settings and other fun things we can edit with the system. But before we do that, we want to set up our animations. And I'm going to discuss jail cells and jail terminal a little bit. So first, animations. So up here in the avatar tab, we can open up the animation editor and click on this animations rig here. So we have two animations. One of them is when they're cuffed on the ground, and the other one is when they're being dragged. So it doesn't matter which one you do first, whichever one it picks is fine. So come up here to these three buttons, publish to Roblox, and make sure you change creator to your group. So that's very important that you change creator to your group. And then after you upload that, copy the ID and store it in a notepad. So cuffed is that. And then we want to do the same thing for our other animation. So three dots, load, dragged, and then we're going to export this as well. So make sure, again, change your creator to your group. We're going to export this as drag, submit, come up here to a notepad, drag, and save the ID there. So now that we've uploaded the animations to our group, we can come over to the settings of the system and Lattice Common, jail system, jail settings. And down here, we have the cuffed and drag anim IDs. So we're just going to copy our cuffed animation, paste it in there, copy our dragged animation and paste it in there. So now our animations will work in the game. And while we're here, I'm just going to go over some of these settings with you. So the data store name is what we use to track the data stores behind the scene. It doesn't really matter to you what this does. All you need to know is that if you want to reset the data, just change this 1 to a 2. If you want to reset it again, change the 2 to a 3, and so on. If you have a webhook for Discord for logging arrests and releases, you can change this nil to your webhook. So you put quotes and then paste your webhook in here, whatever it looks like. Paste it in there. Now, if you don't want your webhook, just change this back to nil. Now, in the UIs in your game, if you want it to show display names, make sure this use display name setting is true. If you don't want it to use display names, change it to false. In this times setting, this will show the times that are in the arrest UI when the player is arresting someone. So right now we have 30 seconds, 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And you can add as many as you want here or remove them. You just need to have at least one of them. Yeah, that's that. For people that can do the arresting, we have group permissions and user permissions. So if you want to add another group, you can just add your group here, add another group. If you don't know how to get your group ID, come over to Discord and we can help you there. So what this is that it says people in this group that are at rank 100 or above can use the handcuffs. And same thing here, people in this group rank 10 or above can use the handcuffs, and so on. User permissions is user IDs that can use the handcuffs. So they might not actually be in one of these groups, but they can still access the system. Under this can't arrest setting, these are people that cannot be arrested no matter what. So if people are in this group at rank whatever and above, or they have these user IDs, they cannot be arrested. And the only other setting here to cover is the default range. So based on this setting, all of our handcuffs will have a default range of 30 unless we change it on the tool itself. So let's talk about that. On the handcuff tools, we can change the range by adding a number attribute called range. And in this case, we want it to be 20. So now this tool will have a range of 20 for arresting. Now, before we go ahead and test the system, we need to change a few more settings in our game. So go over to the Home tab and click Game Settings, and go over to the Security tab. And you want to make sure that HTTP requests are turned on if you want to use the webhook system. And if you want to test the system in Studio, you want to make sure Enable Studio Access to API Services is turned on, and that will allow us to use the data stores in Studio. Now, if you don't want to test it in Studio, you can just leave that turned off, unless other parts of your game need it turned on. And one last thing we need to do before we test it in Studio is up here in our replicated storage, Lattice Common jail system, jail common, we have another setting here called Arrest in Studio. So when this is false, the system will act as if you're just playing a normal Roblox game. But if we change this setting here to true, it means that we can now arrest players in Studio, no matter what group we're in or whatever. So this is very useful for testing in a multiple player Studio server, which is what we are about to do. One last thing I want to talk about before we do that, though, is we have jail cells and this jail terminal. So we can add as many jail cells as we want. Just make sure that if you change the style or design, inside these jail cells is this jail cell folder. And this folder is what's very important. So you need to have this button, this door, that spawn right here, and also this timer. You need to have all of these parts in your jail cells or the system won't work properly. But if you have all those, you can have as many jail cells as you want. And the way this works is the system tries to fill each cell individually first, and then once all the cells are full, it will start putting multiple players in the same jail cells. Now, this jail terminal is what is used to release players from jail. So when we walk up to it, we'll get a UI that allows us to release people. And you can have as many of these in your game too. So if you want them in multiple spots around your map or inside of your prison, you can have that. So let's set up a 2-player studio test and see what we can do with the system. So we'll just give it a second to load. All right, so we're in Studio now with our 2 people. So when I pull up the handcuffs, I'll see that this player here gets highlighted and a prompt appears over that player. So I can now arrest this player. And now that they're arrested, the prompt changes to drag. So if I now reselect them, I can drag them anywhere I want. And I can stop dragging them whenever. If I want to arrest them, I can click here to change the length. So I'm going to arrest him for 2 minutes. And the reason is for testing. And then we're going to confirm that. And that will send them to jail. Now, if you come over to our player that's in jail, while they're in jail, they will see the time remaining. Their UI gets hidden and they lose access to all of their tools. And now if we come back to the original player, we can come up to one of our jail terminals, say this one here. And now we can pick player 2. We want to release them. So we can see here that they have 1 minute and 30 seconds left on their sentence. But we can say that they were wrongfully arrested. And we can release them. And we can see here that they've respawned now and they're no longer in jail. So that's the system in a nutshell. If you have any questions, head over to the Discord server and we'll be happy to help you there.